इंटरव्यू लेने से अब इंटरव्यूज देने तक का सफर।
बहन प्रिपेयर क्वेश्चन में हम लाइक आप देखेंगे
अब
कैसे
देख
करेंगे।
ले।
मौसम है नो यार it would be but it would be like मौसम
शुरू हुआ था तो भी हैव टू डू
मौसम है आशिकाना।
डोंट लुक एट मी चलो ठीक है।
What do you mean don't look at me? The world is looking at me, Sakshi. But suppose I like it's really useless. It's nonsense. But it'll be if you say something, it'll be just मौसम है आशिकाना, साक्षी जी फ्रीडम एट मिडनाइट देखने 15 नवंबर को जरूर आना। मेरा कोई टैलेंट यूजलेस है ही नहीं बहन। टैलेंट यूजलेस कैसे हो सकता है?
Exactly.
Entertain unless you talk of my talent of being able to burn water also. वो एक है। This is Malishka signing out.
Hi Malishka, thank you so much for speaking to Spill the Beans on CNN News 18. I am so excited about this episode because I'll be speaking to one of my idols, somebody whom I grew up listening, and I am so glad looking at your success because you have grown up from the space when people only used to hear you. Then now we are looking at you and in all of your elements.
Thank you very much, Sakshi. I just want to tell you, if you listen to me when you're growing up, if you're grown up, you can still listen to me because I'm still talking.
Yes.
And yes, I always believe in doing more than, and so I'm so happy that apart from listening to me, you get to see me now, considering the way times have evolved.
And we have only seen you as an RJ, but this time around, we will be looking at you as an iconic character in our history, the history of India, Freedom at Midnight with Nikhil Advani.
Yes.
How was it? You will be playing the character of late Sarojini Naidu ji. How did that transpire?
I think it was Kismat mein likha hua, because her name, she was called the Nightingale of India. I don't have that kind of voice, but then she was celebrated that way for the poetry she wrote. She was a literary figure. Um, it has been very, very fabulous, and also feels like it has come full circle with me. As I was saying, when I was a child, and there was I want to say fancy dress, but it was a freedom fighter oriented fancy dress competition, and I dressed up as Sarojini Naidu ji. Um, so even back then, of all the freedom fighters that you remember, there were a lot of male freedom fighters. Right? That was mostly. It's not like the women weren't involved. They were involved in very many ways. Whether it was sacrifices to be made or sending them in to war, even if it was for the British. But in the forefront, Sarojini Naidu was a figure that was a kind of an anomaly for those times, right? She was actually a child prodigy. Uh, uh, she had already accomplished a lot by the time she was 13 when growing up. She studied amongst um, or rather she ran shoulder to shoulder with the
Yeah,
men of those
yeah.
times. And you saw that very little. She held her own and she was a feminist. She never let anything slip by. You couldn't say something else. And in fact, the leaders of that time took her. What she said. It could get a little uncomfortable also in the sense that I think there's a space where and she has a sparkling wit soul. There's a space where she said, so that's why I'm in the Congress Party. She was about the poetry and the poems, and she would do a lot of that. But above all that, she asked you questions. Her arc, as you will see in the show, I think, starts that she was great friends with Jinnah, all right, Muhammad Ali Jinnah. She believed in that ideology because she would hang with the who of society. And Jinnah had a vision which was like, you will run the whole. And then that's what she believed in. So she met Bapu, and then slowly she figured that this is what the masses need, the larger expression of the country needed what Bapu was saying, which is sabko saath mein lekar chalo. It is not just that a few will make decisions for the whole. And that's how you will see her arc from these fabulous sounds. And she said some really sparkly things. In fact, she would light up the room. In fact, when you see sometimes in this boring, heavy political setup, she would come and light up the room. And it was always beautiful thing. It wasn't like, oh, in a way. She was a huge part of the freedom struggle, and I completely kind of identify, not completely, but I identify um, with the character, the kind of person she was, because I enjoy doing that. You keep the mahal a certain way, and yet you say very important things, which has been such a great and fabulous part of my radio career. You keep the mahal light, but you say very important, deep, serious things, and we get people thinking. So she was, I'm just very happy to be playing her. To add to that, of course, the fact that I looked a lot like her, apparently. So,
So how was it working with Nikhil Advani? Because he is one of the most celebrated
yeah.
directors that India has at this point of time. He has given us massive hits when we speak about his big screen, adventures and all. But at this point of time, we are coming up with a project that we have seen multiple drops of. It's going to be a series. We will be looking at the details of every character. You have already spoken about the flamboyance in the nature of late Sarojini Naidu ji, but if I could ask you the research part as well as matching that chemistry with the director as well, how did it happen?
So, as Nikhil Advani himself said, Malishka was inspired casting. I think Kavish and his team were casting, and I had done a short film called Parde Mein Rehne Do, and it did pretty well for that space. And I think at that point, this was in 2022, a lot of viewings of that were on, and so Kavish and his team said, "Malishka kaisi rahegi?" And he was like, "That's fantastic. Can we get her to do this?" You know. So they were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't worry, we will करवा लेंगे." And so they called me to audition. And since I told you, मैंने बचपन में I had played her in a competition. Growing up, I saw her in a whole new light. I wore my mother's sari. I dressed up. I did the part. Before auditioning, I was told, okay, perhaps the director might need someone who has a little bit of Bengali accent in her voice. So I told them, okay, आपके पास कितना समय है मुझे बताइए. I will learn Bengali start to finish. Do you have 4 weeks? Do you have 2 weeks? Do you have 1 week? I'll do it. So the passion for the craft obviously, was there, and I auditioned for it. Uh, I think according to Nikki, he's like, I don't even remember really seeing the audition. I was like, yeah, 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 she'll be good for it if she does it. But they still did an audition. And I believe lots of people were auditioned, and I was zoomed into because, like Nikhil Advani himself said in one of the interviews, he's like, Malishka, or rather, these are his words. It's like she's been quite a disruptor anyway in society, and that is what Sarojini ji stood for in so many ways. So I was like, okay, that's the reason I was chosen. And of course, the physicality matches. If you look at the way my face looks, the hair, even post prosthetics, which is something I knew would happen, and that is another ball game altogether, sister. Like the prosthetics is a whole different. But all of that put together, it moved into research. So I remember asking Nikki, what do you want me to do? Should I learn Bengali? Should I do this? Should I do that? No, no, straight. I will tell you. And so it just was a process of reading. I bought her books of essential reading, which is her speeches and her poems. And she's very lyrical quality to her writing, and very strong quality to her speaking. So um, that, rereading a little bit of Freedom at Midnight. The project went on for at least like 2 years. 2022, I was cast. 24, we started shooting. In the interim, speaking to Nikhil a little more about who she was, and he would quite he would quite tell me, I remember during a scene, also, this is not how Sarojini would react. This is not her. And then I know I have to bring in a little more of what I had already imagined Sarojini to be. The interesting thing for me was here that every time Nikhil spoke about Sarojini ji, even though she was, of that period, and you always see her in a sari and a large bindi, sometimes the palla on her head as well. You see her give speeches abroad. She's very prolific. The way she speaks is amazing. Um, she would always say, yes, you imagine that I come from a land that treats its women a certain way or that is a certain way. Um, so to bring those two together, even though as a modern woman today, I think, okay, this is a modern one. So Rojni ji was actually at the height of modernism and feminism, both.
Hmm.
Like she to me embodies a woman, not just of those times, of these times also. If we could just emulate her, I think we would be perfectly, perfectly fine. So very often I felt like, oh, Sarojini ji is so much like me, right? And so sometimes that would become a little bit of a, I hope that people don't see me when they're seeing Sarojini. So then that was the little
Hmm.
A little bit of stretch. That fine line between a woman of today and
Hmm.
Sarojini ji, who is so much a woman of today. So
Hmm.
all of these were worked upon, and all this has happened before because once you're on a set, because you're not the only one, it's a, it's about the freedom struggle. So there are so many actors on
Hmm.
set at any given time, right? Because it's partition, etc. So you have to be so you
Hmm.
get like one, two takes at best, or three maybe maximum. But before that, Nikhil had done so much of prep work with all of us that I think we did
Hmm.
good.
And I'm so excited about this project, especially looking at the character that you will be playing. How will you be playing? Because we have that strong image of Malishka as RJ Malishka, right?
Yes,
So that's
yes.
going to be very challenging for you indeed. But since you're a radio
Thank
jockey,
you.
Malishka, when you speak
Uh,
at a stretch. So you have to do a lot of research so that you can speak about it without doing any errors. But
mm,
if I could speak to you about the tagline of the series, which is
yes.
the history that you may not know, the history you
Mm,
should know. What
yeah.
were the elements of the history that you got to know while working on this particular project that you did not know before? But what were the new elements that you found out, which was surprising to you as well?
I think lots and lots and lots. See, I feel like whenever we read history, we had a chapter, school me at least, we had a chapter, and I feel like all of our freedom fighters were very just one-dimensional almost.
Mhm.
They were either deified or vilified, depending on which side of the partition line you stood, for example. Um, and you got to know their key, whatever key things they had done, and then you went from there. So
Hmm.
Bapu, the father of the nation, Jinnah, who he was responsible for the partition and Pakistan. But here, I think through at Midnight, what you will see is a basic humanization of characters, which I don't think I have seen in any of the series so far. This is based on a book that has already been written by Larry Collins. The uh, the book existed from the point of view of Mountbatten primarily
Hmm.
in a lot of
Okay.
spaces, and but also from the letters of that time, documented notes, history, etc. So this coming to life is almost like it was seen like someone who was there, right?
Mhm.
And there could be arguably people who might say this is not as accurate as whatever, and I'm sure there are some creative liberties that have been taken. But primarily in Mota Mota, as they see, you will see a lot of things that your history did not teach you at all. And then there are some amazing bits of trivia, like why the partition line was done the way it was, why 15th August was chosen. And I have a part where I think, again, in her sparkling, which she said at some point that कि माउंटबैटन को पता नहीं था कि 15th August अगले साल भी आएगा. This was suddenly, partition was moved forward, or rather, freedom was moved forward.
Hmm.
The relationship between the leaders, I think, you will be surprised, and also very, very entertaining to see the relationship between Jinnah and Nehru, Jinnah and Gandhi, the relationship between, say, Sarojini Naidu and the kind of relationship she had with Jinnah, and then how it develops with Gandhi.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
there are small things because they've been humanized so much that you will see, like, why somebody was given a nickname here, or why was that taunt thrown there.
Hmm.
And apart from that, things that you never imagined, especially in this day of social media, when there's information so loosely thrown in, कि ये तो ऐसे leader थे, ये तो ऐसे थे, ये तो ऐसे, it's almost a demonization today when I look at it. So I find that in Freedom of Midnight, you will see a lot of humanization of leaders, and you will see that there are people who had to make decisions on the basis of what they thought was best at that time for the country, keeping its highest good in mind. So today, so many years later, we can always debate that. कि ऐसे होता तो वैसा होता, ऐसे होता तो वैसे होता. Like, for example, like I'm saying, if Jinnah had seen what Sarojini Naidu had seen, like Sarojini went through this whole thing where she believed, what Jinnah was saying was true, because she always hung out with Devi. But slowly, she moves over and says, no, she understands Bapu's philosophy. Even
Hmm.
while at one point, I think, in history, she was not quite so sure. So, all of this you will get to see, and I think you will be able to uh, fairly, especially for Gen Z, in my opinion, because imagine I dressed up as a freedom fighter when I was a kid, so which means we somehow studied differently, we studied more. it will be really nice for them, I think, for the new generation to understand what the core of their freedom fighters and the founders of their nations were. So I
Hmm.
think, yeah, we'll see
Also,
all of it.
Malishka, since at the beginning of my previous question, I spoke of the radio jockeys, how they have to speak at a stretch, because we are also anchors, we are also required to speak for length, for stretch. I really want to know, what do you do? Is there a basic routine that you follow, or a normal thing that you do for your throat, because you have to speak so much?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just drink some water while I say this. Staying hydrated, girl. That's what it is. Staying hydrated. Um, I've always believed that speaking is not a function of the throat as much as it is a function of the mind, and perhaps sometimes your diaphragm and your stomach. Uh, so I have never really ever concentrated on voice. वैसे भी when I started on my career, the voice was unconventional. For it, it wasn't like a lilting voice. My voice was always the deeper voice. So I used to chide myself saying, "अरे ये तो फटे ढोल वाली आवाज है." And it worked because it was not about the voice. It has always for me been about the content of what you're saying. क्योंकि
Mhm.
अच्छा अगर आप कुछ अच्छा बोल रहे हो तो सुन ही लेंगे लोग, and it's a different voice. So if you really want me to say, I'm just going to say that I drink a lot of water. I keep my throat hydrated. I drink warm water, which I don't think is the greatest of things, and well, I rest my voice a lot more than I used to earlier. There were times, if you won't believe, on the radio, I have gotten constricted in the mid sentence, like, I just speak so much with so much passion. Now
Hmm.
I've learned to control. So I think over time, you just learn to control it.
I would really want to talk about Naacho Re with Kaam Bhari. How
Oh,
did that
yes.
happen?
Nacho Re, this is, all my projects are like, हमने start किया था तभी, हुआ है अभी. But the point of it is still staying relevant, so it's good. I think this was around the pandemic that Kaam Bhari and his team got in touch with me and said, Mumbai Ki Rani hai aap, would you like to, you know, um, let's collaborate. So I remember it was mid-pandemic when things had just opened up anyway, that we went into the studio. And it was Monday's work. Nothing was written for me. He just told me, tell me what is going on, what do you want to talk about. And I think he was telling about some controversy or the other that had happened. I'm no stranger to controversy. So I told him about that. And Kamari was just writing stuff. And um, then I was jamming with him. And then those lines came up. East or West, अपनी है चलती, मुंबई की रानी है, तू करना नहीं गलती. And so we recorded it back then. This must have been a 21, 22. But after that, Six Flip has been playing it at different volumes, and people were quite excited about it. So we recently got the video out. This has been quite the year, actually. So I made my debut. I don't want to say debut because I've sung to you before, but like a commercial debut with that hip hop song. And here we are doing Sarojini Naidu. Again, it's not like it's my debut in the acting world, but like you said, it is that kind of debut where it will carry through the ages, I feel, because
Hmm.
it's not just another entertainer. I'm
Hmm.
starting a huge commercial project with Nikhil Advani, but it's not just Malishka doing variation of some character that she's imagined. This character
Hmm.
who existed in history, you reimagine and you put her out. It's a huge responsibility, and I'm just glad that I got these opportunities, yeah, to explore my talent, let's say hip hop or um, acting. And I really believe that's what people should do. People are boxed way too often and don't follow their passion because they're like, अरे ये तो मैं तो बहुत बड़ा heart surgeon हूँ. मैं कैसे I don't know
Hmm.
acting के बारे में सोच सकता हूँ या फिर creative pursuits. So I
Hmm.
feel like if you decided if YOLO is the scale and if that is the only one you've got, there will be hit and miss, but what do you have to lose except, you know, your pride, inhibition, ego? And if you drop your inhibition and manage to do something fabulous in the world, it's great. So I intend to explore all my talents, figure out which one falls in which order, but acting
And
is my pride.
apart from that, you have been a dubbing artist for so many years
Yes.
also. Inside Out 2 की भी बात कर ही लेते हैं.
Karhi Egypt. That's what I'm saying. This has been quite the year. Inside Out भी उस गाने के बिल्कुल पहले ये एक्चुअली धड़ाधड़ पिछले कुछ महीनों में हुआ है.
Hmm.
So yeah, I did the voice of anxiety for those of you who don't know. You can join. I thought, I think they captured. They were like, even this must be inspired casting only. Like, who's the person that talks so fast that she has thought ahead of, and then she doesn't finish a sentence. They were like Malishka. So it's that no, that energy that they capitalized upon, and I enjoyed it tremendously. I have done voice acting for quite a few projects. One of them was with Shah Rukh Khan for Incredibles, The Incredibles.
Hmm.
Then, of course, I have Avengers, I want to say. Not Avengers. Oh gosh, I have it's fallen out of my mouth right now as we speak. Um, I have done Lion King, I played Nala and Lion King. So many of these. And this has been my recent, which has done well all across the world. And I believe voice acting has such a huge component of acting. You can't really do voice acting if you're not an actor or if you're unable to grasp an emotion and put it out a certain way. And then you're doing a thing that someone has already done, um, and then to adapt it to your language along with lip movements. Deva.
That's beautiful. And Malishka, if I could ask you, इंटरव्यू लेने से अब इंटरव्यूज देने तक का सफर.
Behen. I consider myself so lucky, I can't tell you, because now that so I've done a lot of promotions, right, over the last few days, and I'm sitting on this side, and now the interviews on that side. I cannot tell you how much I'm observing and filing away and observing, and I'm like, ye karna chahiye, ye nahi karna chahiye. Oh, when you're sitting on this side, this is how you feel. Like there's so much, because let's face it, every interaction is also has an underlay of, oh ho, what is this person feeling, especially as an interviewer, कि ये सामने वाला सोच क्या रहा है, मुझे इसको comfortable कराना है या uncomfortable कराना है. There are all sorts of interviews ना कि मुझे इससे सच उगलवाना है. There's so many layers to it, and I feel like I'm getting both. It's Sakshi is one of the most fabulous places to be in, to be able to be on this side and to be on that side. So I'm like, हाँ मैं होती तो ये सवाल जरूर पूछती, मैं होती तो ये सवाल तेरे को नहीं पूछती. But for this particular thing, I I think apart from the beginning, because it's such an immersive piece of work to be in, because I'm telling people so much about just generally history and what happened. So I'm completely immersed in my role as an actor, because also because I want people to know, because I've kept telling people कि अगर मैं इस project में नहीं भी होती, I would be very excited to see it. And I don't know how to do this without saying कि हाँ हाँ तुम तो इसमें हो. But that's not the reason. I'm very excited. I'm carrying the book, huh? Making comparisons. And even if I don't see myself on screen, today I put up a promo, you will see it, where I have like a line in this promo, but so many people have already reacted to it. So it's really not that. It is a very fascinating thing जहाँ पर आप आएंगे एंटरटेन होने के लिए, क्योंकि है फ्रीडम स्ट्रगल का अर्थ क्या है इसमें. ह्यूमन कैरेक्टर्स हैं बहुत सारा, आपको मसाला भी देखे. Masala is not added masala, but you will see things that every emotion has been captured. Now.
Hmm.
But apart from that, it is the story of your freedom struggle. And I think everyone deserves to know. It's not one of those things कि आप देख के बोलेंगे अरे वो शो ना अच्छा था, वो शो अच्छा नहीं था, वो शो अच्छा ही था, मगर
Hmm.
wow, I learned this about my history. वो होगा. So I'm very, very proud to be part of it. So
Beautiful. And I don't know why, while speaking to you, I can't stop smiling. My cheeks are hurting now.
I
But I
I'm
can't let
telling
you
you.
go without the brutal honesty. Yeah, that's the rapid fire round that I do with
Oh
all of my
shucks.
guests. I have got a couple of questions now since you're on the other side of the table. I'm going to be.
I hate rapid fire. I love asking them. I hate rapid fire so much. I literally admire people who do rapid fire as well. I prepare questions and I'm like, आप देखेंगे
अब
कैसे
देखते
करेंगे.
हैं.
मेरा
चलो
सारा
सुनो.
कभी रैपिड होता ही नहीं.
आज देखते
Yes,
हैं
darling.
मलिष्का को कैसा लगता है to have answered
I
all of these
know.
questions.
See, tell me.
Chalo, your first question is, if you could give your job a title using a movie's name, what would it be?
As an RJ, shucks. See, how?
Is your
कुछ
answer?
कुछ होता है. I would give
Okay.
it. कुछ कुछ होता है. Not because कुछ कुछ होता है only, but because through my job, I feel like सॉफ्ट हो या हार्ड हो, चेंजेस आए हैं दुनिया में. मेरी दुनिया में चेंजेस जरूर आए हैं. कॉन्वर्सेशंस हुए हैं, चीजें बदली हैं तो कुछ कुछ होता है, मीन समथिंग और द अदर हैपेंस भैया.
Hmm. Next would be, what's the most useless talent that you possess?
Of all my talents, what is the most? I can't, because when you'll ask me to demonstrate, I have a deep love for Javed sir,
Mhm.
so I end up talking like him and then doing Shero Shairi on the spot.
Now you
On the
have
spot.
to do it.
I know, I'm not going to do it. मौसम है. No, यार. It would be, but it would be like मौसम.
शुरू हुआ था तो we have to do it.
मौसम है
I'm not gonna laugh.
आशिकाना.
Don't look at me. चलो ठीक है.
What do you mean? Don't look at me. The world is looking at me, Sakshi. But suppose I like it's really useless. It's nonsense. But it'll be if you say something, it'll be just मौसम है आशिकाना. साक्षी जी फ्रीडम एट मिडनाइट देखने 15 नवंबर को जरूर आना.
That's amazing.
Sakshi, if Javed Akhtar Saab falls out of love with me, I
He will
first
not. You're adorable. He will not.
I love the man. There is Shah Rukh Khan and Javed Akhtar. I feel like I can interview them all my life, every alternate day.
And you're
Love them.
adorable. He will not fall out of love from
But
you.
did you see my useless shairi? Anytime I can break into song with any word at all, and I can make them up on the spot. My friends are also parishan with me. मेरा कोई टैलेंट यूजलेस है ही नहीं बहन. टैलेंट यूजलेस कैसे हो सकता है? It'll keep you
Exactly.
entertained unless you talk of my talent of being able to burn water also. वो एक है. Okay, okay.
One celebrity
हाँ.
who gets on your nerves very often, every time you meet them.
Gets on my nerves. Wait. Um, First I have to think of the person, then I've got to figure out how to tell it to you cryptically. Are those who are not able to give you an answer, or that who are okay, the ones who are constantly on edge कि भाई ये कहीं मेरे को ट्रिप करने के लिए सवाल तो नहीं पूछ रहे हैं.
Hmm.
एक होता है मेरी तरह मतलब भूल ही जाना, but everyone's not trying to trip you. But I think unfortunately या fortunately जमाना ऐसा हो गया है ना that everything gets taken. So
Very
everyone's
serious.
so careful कि
Mhm.
careful रहते रहते वो मजा करना भूल जाते हैं
Mhm.
because they're not sure कि what will get them into trouble. I'm telling you, Sakshi, if my Javed Akhtar poem gets me into trouble, it won't because
It
you
will
know
not.
it
It
will
will
not.
not. I
मौसम
promise.
है आशिकाना 15 नवंबर को फ्रीडम एट मिडनाइट देखने जरूर आना.
Chalo, describe yourself in 3 words.
My two personalities are fighting with each other कि कौन से वाले को describe करोगी. Um, Hopeful, entertaining.
Definitely, for sure. I was waiting for that word. That should have been the first word.
Yeah, what was the first word I said?
Yeah.
I'm a friend's
I
friend.
of party, I'll say.
See, I told you this rapid fire is going. I should start writing questions for myself and answer them so I have them at a minute's
It's
notice.
okay. It's okay. I'm hoping that you become this word.
Wait, I have it. Entertaining, resilient, and
Okay.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, of course. Yeah. Biggest risk that you have taken in your life.
Jumping off a plane, I think.
Skydiving. ठीक है.
No, that's not the biggest risk I've taken. That's the biggest risk. I bought a house when I just started my career in radio very quickly, and I was scared, so scared, because I was like, what are these interest rates? I don't understand what is going on, etc. But my mom told me that you will, and it's so important to have that person in your life, right? My mom said you will only grow, which is the faith that I forgot to have in myself, like at that moment. She said, what, you're only going to make more money and grow, and thank God. So that first house I bought was, I thought at that point the biggest risk, because पैसे उतने थे नहीं. ले लिया.
And Mumbai में घर भी लेना.
हाँ.
And last but not the least, when was the last time that you were moved to tears?
Must have been recently only. I think when I saw the trailer,
I got goosebumps and I was moved to tears. Several reasons. One is, of course, I think I saw my interaction between Bapu and Vallabhbhai Patel, which you will see as well.
Mhm.
And like I said, no, this is so humanized. And when you know that at one point Vallabhbhai Patel was the most popular person to be the prime minister of the country, and why that change and how that change, you see almost in my mind it was just like wow, it's the most basic. It's like you have so much reverence for another person, and you're like yes, this is the right thing to do, and you give up. And I think it resonated with so many things in my mind. कि हाँ, okay, होता है कभी कभी. And secondly, because I saw myself on screen, maybe that's it. I saw myself on screen and I did not see myself. I was like, this is Sarojini Naidu, and I was shocked and awed, and I was like, this is so good. So thanks, Nikhil Advani, MA, Kavish, for this opportunity to play such a powerful woman.
That's really beautiful, Malishka. It was a beautiful chat. I thoroughly enjoyed.
I'm Malishka, and I've had the good fortune to play Sarojini Naidu, and my peers alongside me have had the good fortune to um, portray leaders of a time and space that everyone should know about. Because when we discuss our history, we should discuss it with pride. Please watch Freedom at Midnight on the 15th of November on Sony Live. This is Malishka signing out.
Ooh.